朋友们好呀，我是娜姐。昨天晚上我去参加了一个筹款晚会，就是为这位年轻的佛州议员 Rep.Anthony Sabatini 来筹款，帮助他明年竞选连任。我来支持他是因为他提出了要在佛州的5个大县进行2020选举审计。佛州有些县的选举舞弊情况非常的严重，所以我非常支持他的这个议案。Sabatini 是一个能看出问题也敢于揭露问题的一个议员，当然他的很多议案都是受阻的，因为佛州共和党中的 Rhino 也是非常的多，而他也经常在公开场合批评这些 Rhinos。
To win, we just have to hold our ground. Folks, I'm here to tell you that those days are playing defense. And I'm here to tell you, and this might actually alarm some people, but Florida really is no exception. I love Florida. We are the land of the free. We are leading the nation right now. But we are not using the mandate. The Republican elected class in this state and across the country is not using the power for which it was given to advance the principles of the Founding Fathers and of the America First movement. I'll give you a perfect example. Here in the state of Florida, it's still perfectly illegal to commit a transgender surgery on a child in the state of Florida. We still allow insane mask mandates, vaccine mandates that woke corporations and hospitals and small businesses and local governments are imposing on people. We still don't have a 100% voucher system here in the state of Florida. It's still illegal. It's still required of you to go out and get a permit if you want to carry a firearm. There's so many things, conservative wins that we need to engage in. But we don't have people in office right now who have these fears like, well, we don't care what Disney or one of these companies do. If they want to ban your free speech, that's fine. If they want to make you get vaccinated, or you're going to be fired on the spot without apology, that's fine. That's a private business. We believe in free enterprise, don't we? We need to start looking at all the threats to our liberty in this country. It doesn't matter if it's government or woke globalist corporatism, and we have to destroy it. We have the ability to do it now. We live in what they call a trifecta. Republican House, State House, Republican State Senate, Republican governorship, Republican Supreme Court. We have unlimited Republican power. When that sorry, I've been doing Army training all summer. I'm in the National Guard. When that really bad guy that was on the Naval City Commission said we need to start doing mandatory vaccination before the vaccinations even really started, and now they actually are being mandated, Governor DeSantis should have removed him from office on the spot. Any elected official in the state, the local government level, that imposed a lockdown or a mask mandate that resulted in the arrest of Christian pastors, small businesses, and many of the other folks that I represented for free in most cases throughout the state should have been removed from office on the spot, impeached, and possibly hit a criminal penalty. You know, I don't want to sound like I'm trash talking, but look at the AG's office, right? We have an attorney general who's just, yeah, she's doing okay. But why is she not? Here's the rule, and this is what people need to internalize. If the Democrats were in power, if the left was in power in the state of Florida, you wouldn't even be allowed to be here right now. Okay? Right. I'm telling you right now, they would be mandating, they'd ask you to pull a permit before all these things and go through and find out what your statements are. They're getting rid of the First Amendment. First Amendment's halfway gone. Right? The rhinos we have in Congress right now, they're not willing to fight up against this fake thing called hate speech. All the Dems have to do is say, that's hate speech. And they're going to say, all right, well, I'm against hate speech, so I'm okay with getting rid of the First Amendment or putting stipulations on against it. That's what we have in office right now. So I'm going to tell you something very controversial, and this is what I believe. If you live anywhere in the state of Florida, you're all right here in either Collie or Lee counties, or maybe some outside. We got some Miami guys here. You have a mandate to primary any rhino Republican who isn't as conservative as you are, right? Because you need primaries to start winning for the conservative movement. Look at what Greg Abbott in Texas is doing right now. Greg Abbott has passed, or at least matched, or maybe passed, DeSantis in terms of fighting for conservative wins right now. Why? Why is he doing it in the last couple months? He's doing it because he's getting primaried by two amazing individuals. Colonel Alan West, one of our best conservatives in the nation, one of my personal heroes, and Don Halfines, who's a very well-respected, hard-right state senator, former state senator, who's running a campaign too, and a couple other people. Chad Prather, the cowboy conservative guy, he's running in there too. So he's so scared of this primary, he's now finally delivering the wins. He is banned. He's building a wall. He's building. He's banned public transportation for these illegal immigrants pouring in through our border. And he's got a whole bunch of other things he's doing. He's being tougher on the local governments for mask and vaccine mandates than even our governor, who I love. I love our governor. Abbott right now is actually doing a slightly better job. So what I'm telling you is we need to start taking our country back, but you cannot take this country back until you take the Republican Party back. And the way you're going to take this Republican Party back is by either running and winning or making these damn conservatives and these elected officials so scared of you that they're going to deliver the conservative wins. They're not going to say, well, leadership told me not to do that. Leadership told me not to say that. I wanted to co-sponsor that, or I wanted to do that, but I was patted on the head and told to go sit in the corner because the rhino establishment told me not to do that. That's not an excuse anymore. If you have that mentality and you're okay with the mentality, we will not be a country in 10 years. We will not be a country in 10 years. People literally think that, oh, no, like we're going to get the White House back and then we're going to start rolling back and all these things. Folks, we might not be a real sovereign nation in 3 years. I mean that quite literally. I was at a conference for 9 days. I just got back a couple days ago with some leading conservatives from around the country about where do we go next and what are we doing. Charlie Kirk, who runs Turning Point, was in there, a bunch of other people, great people. And we sat there and we tried to figure out what are we going to do. Folks, everything is on the table right now. Everything is on the table right now. The left is so vicious right now. If we don't start taking these states, these various states, and turning them into fortified strongholds against this insane federal government and this woke corporatism, there might not be a place to run to, okay? I'm talking permanent lockdowns. You know, you want to leave your house? Ask the government for permission. Permanent curfews, permanent mask mandates. They do not want to ever get rid of these mandates. Public health is out the window, you know. So that's my philosophy. Let me back up a little bit. I'm a state house rep. I'm filing bills left and right that a lot of people like right now. But one of the problems we have actually in Tallahassee is a Republican establishment that's beholden to woke corporatism and special interests, right? I was just telling a couple of folks here, one of the most important bills I file every year, and it still has not passed, is a bill that would ban taxpayer-funded lobbying. Let me tell you one of the sick practices that happens in Tallahassee right now on Republican watch. They take your taxpayer money that you pay to the city of Naples or Collier County or the school board or whatever. They take that money and they go and they purchase a lobbyist who then takes, the lobbyist will disperse money to try to buy off Republican elected officials to try to get them to go against the policies, the conservative policies that you want. So they literally take money out of your own pocket, saying it's for education, give it to lobbyists to kill the conservative policies that are advancing Tallahassee. So I have a bill that would ban taxpayer-funded lobbying. We can't get it moving because too many of our Republican officials are bought up by the special interests, and they don't have the compelling ideology. We all know, I know who everybody in this room is. Even if I don't know you personally, I know the type of person you are. You're like me and my wife, right? On a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday night, you're going out to talk to like-minded people to say, what can we do to save our country? What do we can do? And the number one question I get asked, right? All the questions I get asked, people always say, what can I do? What can we do? I feel so weak. What can we do? How can we spend our energy? I'm telling you right now, we need to start getting involved in these primaries, and we need to start recruiting candidates, which, by the way, is the single hardest thing in politics. I didn't know that, by the way. When I got elected, I just thought everyone was conservative and I wouldn't have to worry about that, and I realized most were rhinos and they weren't really doing anything. So I started to try to recruit folks. Wow, it's hard to recruit. It is so hard to recruit. It's so much easier to get somebody who will, you know, maybe share your post or go to a meeting or whatever, but to go and run for office, that's a tough thing. It's the single hardest thing. So we as a conservative movement, one of the things we're tasked with right now is recruiting a deep bench to run across the board on everything, on the most important issues of our day. Election integrity, term limits, you know, less government, restoring public health decisions, right? Mandates, masks. Let me tell you what mandates and masks are really all about. It's not public safety. It's not really about one person stopping or slowing down the spreading of an illness. It's about eradicating the individual from having any autonomy over their own personal health care decisions. What they want to do is, it's the classic. Speak fast that way, I don't get too many applause lines. They want to centralize all of your health care decisions. That's what they want. They want the government in charge of everything. Here's how you're all going to be, you know, here's what you're going to be doing today. Here's what you're going to be doing tomorrow. You know, I was the only Republican official to fight against the insanity, the COVID tyranny, and the cult of Fauciism from day one in the state of Florida. Not a single Republican would stand with me for the first 30 days. I said, the lockdown is wrong. The mask mandates are wrong. What happened to individual autonomy? I trust the community. I trust the individual to make the public health care decisions. Why would I trust a centralized, unaccountable, corrupt bureaucracy to make our public health care decisions. But guess what? People started waking up. But I got to tell you, they're not woken up all the way yet. They still are hedging their positions on this. This should be a fundamental issue. Fundamental issue. The individual should be in charge. The family should be in charge of their own healthcare decisions. And we need to start being a lot tougher on these guys. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do when I get to Congress, right? So I'm endorsed by Rand Paul, Matt Gaetz, Roger Stone, and a bunch of other really powerful organizations. People ask me, what are you going to file when you get there? There's a lot of bills I'm going to file. But there's a lot of bills I'm going to co-sponsor because they're bills that are already there. But the so-called conservatives in Congress right now won't co-sponsor or push because they don't want to piss off the Republican leadership. They're too afraid of the old wing of the party, the old soft, moderate, defense-only, boring rung of the Republican Party that doesn't want to advance our agenda. So some of these bills are impeaching Joe Biden on the first day that we take the Congress. Right? Day one. No hearing. They should invite, just like they gave what? Trump one hearing on the January 6th and they impeached him. We'll have a 2-hour hearing and we need to impeach Joe Biden. We need to impeach Mayorkas, the DHS secretary, who's allowed 180,000 illegal immigrants so far. And we need to make sure that Fauci can never be employed by the federal government ever again. So I don't know how much time I have. I'd rather go into questions, but I do have time. Okay, so let me take out some of the other bills that we really need to get passed right now. Election integrity, #1 issue right now. #1 issue, okay? I wrote a letter to the Secretary of State. I'm going to file a bill, but I wanted to start off by getting the minister of our elections in our state to do an audit. What I always tell the left is they say, what do you know that we don't know? I say, I know a lot about the fraud in other states. I don't really know about that there was fraud. I know there probably was, but I don't know what fraud existed and where. So why not do an audit so we know? Yeah. If we do an audit and then there ends up being no fraud, wouldn't the left be happy with that? They get to say, look, we have this perfect election system. Right? That's the logic. The logic would be that they say, let's do the audit so we can prove the conservative wrong and make them look wrong. But they won't budge. They won't submit. They will not do it. They will not do the audit because they know that there is going to be, I don't know which county it's going to be, but there's going to be probably more than one county, enormous discrepancies. Double scanning of ballots, fake mail-ins, addresses, like what I saw in Georgia. I went to Georgia for 3 days to work on the special election for the 2 senators, which, because Rhino Brian Kemp never called a special election to change the election law, we knew we were going to lose those. So Donald Trump lost, quote unquote, and then we lost in Georgia. I'm like, why are we even here? But I did it to try to do the right thing. The #1 complaint I got when I was answering the phones to the Republican national lawyers was 20 or 30 people living in the same house. People would be at a house and they'd say, I'm getting 10 ballots from different names to the same exact house. And what was going on? Those ballots were being intercepted, right, by employees of the Democrat Party or whoever, special interest groups, and they're being hand jammed, filled out, and then there was no signature match. They were just got, thrown in. Until we can have an audit here in Florida, we do not know if our election system works. Now we know that Donald Trump won overwhelmingly to the point where if they did try to commit some fraud of 10 or 50 or maybe 100,000 ballots, it wouldn't have mattered because Donald Trump won so significantly, 3.4%, tripled his margin from 2016. Well, we need to get that done. But once again, #1 issue on the campaign trail, #1 issue with the Republican base, and yet the Rhino establishment will not do it. Why? Because here's the #1 rule for a Rhino. What's the definition of a Rhino? People are always like, oh my God, he's talking about a Rhino. I know. Here's the definition of a Rhino. Quite honestly, even if you have moderate political positions, you're not a Rhino if this rule doesn't apply to you.
They don't like when I use that in college.
Oh, they hate it. Here's the definition of a Rhino.
Hates when I use that word.
The definition of a Rhino is somebody who is so afraid of the media. Really, I mean, this is truly the rule. They're so afraid of what the media is going to say or what the establishment, the special interests are going to say, that they're going to temper or change their political position based on that, right? A true conservative, doesn't matter what your position is, if you're willing to fight for it and you're principled in it, you're not a Rhino. The Rhinos are the ones who are saying, Sabatini, you might be right, but we're going to get like creamed or blistered or attacked by the press if we do that, so let's not do it. They're literally always trying to appease the media. Their rule is, in other words, what do I have to do to avoid being called mean names? Which, by the way, is a really good rubric for telling you how good your elected official is. How bad are they being treated by the mainstream media? How bad are they being treated by the established Republicans? if they're not being tried, if you don't ever see their name in the paper, or maybe they say something like passing applause, like so-and-so ran a bill and brought a bunch of taxpayer money back to the district. If that's the kind of elected official they are, and they're not standing up for the major issues that are going to sink our nation if we don't do something about, you got to primary that person, get rid of them. You have to. Because we do not have a fighting corpus. We don't have a fighting army right now. You got too many people. I mean, look at the Liz Cheney thing. The Liz Cheney thing is probably the best evidence of this. So, end of January, I think it was early February, right? Only one third of the Republican caucus voted to get rid of Liz Cheney from her position. She was the conference chair, the official organ, the official speaker, right? Speaking conference chair, like PR person for the Republican Party in D.C., right? We all hate Liz Cheney. The polls show that 95% of us hated and wanted her gone. But what we discovered is there's this giant gap between our elected representatives, Republican representatives, and our voting conservative deplorable base, right? The actual conservatives, right? The people, the heartland of this nation, even if they approve by something by 90%, you're going to get these rhinos who are going to go against their own base every single time. So even though 90% of us wanted Liz Cheney gone, 2/3 of the congressmen in Washington, D.C. voted to keep her in that position, including a lot of Republicans right here in Florida, of which I'm not going to name, but you'll be able to figure out who they are very quickly, right? And more importantly, it doesn't matter if they secretly voted against her. If they didn't have the spine to stand up and call her out and go against her publicly, then they're wrong. And let me tell you why they wouldn't do that. The reason they wouldn't do that is because they were too afraid of being punished by the leadership. I don't want to be punished and kicked off this important committee. What if they killed my one bill that was going to create a new post office in my district? Oh my goodness. Jeez Louise, I can't believe that would happen. I need to do whatever they say. That describes the majority of the cowards we have in elected office today. So, but what happened? We did not shut up. People like Michael Thompson here and all these people around the state said, we're not letting her go. We want her gone. It took 3 or 4 months later, but finally we were so loud, so aggressive, and Donald Trump, as the true leader of the Republican Party, was so persistent on this that they had to literally do like a recall vote and then got rid of her. And of course, 80% changed. You know who the problem with the Republican Party is, though, folks? Yeah, the problem is the ones who voted for it from the beginning. But the biggest problem are those ones who did not vote for her. They voted for her the first time, but after the base got really loud, they switched their votes because they were more afraid of their own voters. So what happened is those congressmen were afraid that they were going to get put on the board. Put on the board meaning people were going to have to know how they voted because they voted anonymously the first time. And what was happening is that RECs around the state, people were saying, how did our congressman vote on this? Did they vote for traitor Liz Cheney, who hates Donald Trump, believes in endless war, big government, special interests, swamp creature from hell? Or did they vote to get rid of her and put somebody good in it? And the truth is, they didn't want it to be known for how they voted, so that's why they got rid of her. Isn't that sad?